Hello and welcome back to the Stationary Dev. Today we have a look at a notebook that I discovered recently, that I tried recently. So every once in a while when I'm in a store, whether it be Walmart, Target, whatever, every once in a while I'll make a trip down the stationery writing aisle just to see if there's anything new or anything that catches my eye, as we do. And the last time I was actually in Walmart, went down the stationery aisle, and for whatever reason, this little notebook caught my eye. It's a big box of them. They were 97 cents each, so the risk was limited. But a couple of things caught my eye. So if we take a look, I've already unwrapped it, but this is the wrapper. If we take a look here, one thing that caught my eye is it's got perforated sheets. It's also, this is what really got me, is heavyweight paper. So that had me thinking, wait a minute, this might work with fountain pens if it's saying it's heavyweight paper. The other thing that might indicate that as well, as you can see right there, it's made in Vietnam. And usually, if you know anything about sort of like store papers or finding a good, notebook paper or something like that for fountain pens, usually if something is made in Vietnam, it's better for it'll work with fountain pens more times than not, I think. Of course, there's always sort of some variation and stuff like that, but usually if you see made in Vietnam on like a composition book or something like that, usually it's better quality paper. So those kind of caught my eye, along with it being 97 cents. This is a A5 size notebook, which we'll get to. You can kind of see some of the dimensions there, but it's A5 size. College ruled, so it only comes in lined. You can't. I didn't see any blank ones or anything. Maybe they'll come out with some, but this is the Pen+Gear brand, which is, I guess, Walmart's stationery brand, and they just call it the Personal Notebook. But I've actually been pretty impressed with this thing. So let's take a look at what we have here. I don't know if you can tell. Maybe if I do like that, it's A5 size. It's got rounded corners on it. The cover is just a pretty thick cardboard cover. One thing that's pretty interesting and actually really nice is it's a sewn binding as opposed to like a staple binding or glue binding. It's actually a stitch binding, which is really nice, especially for the price point of 97 cents, which is a little absurd once you see what this thing is capable of. You open it up. You can open it up flat because it's just a stitch binding, not very many pages. It has, 30 sheets, so 60 pages, I guess, if you're going back and front. College ruled, lined, so which I kind of like. I don't like big chunky lines. I kind of like these thinner lines, which works, and they're nicely printed. They seem to be fairly straight. You don't get any line number or page numbers or anything there, but pretty nice. And what you'll notice is the front half of the notebook is sewn in, but the back half of the notebook has that perforation there. So you can actually, these pages on the back half of the notebook, you can all rip out if you want to, for whatever reason. If you want to move some of these notes to another place, you can do that. Or if you're using it for sketching or something, I don't know what people do. But what we really want to know about is the paper. So it says it's heavyweight paper, and I would tend to agree. It's not super cheap feeling. If I had to guess, I'd say it's around maybe 80 or 90 GSM paper because it feels pretty similar to Rhodia. In terms of thickness, it feels pretty similar to Rhodia. So I'd say 80 or 90 GSM in terms of the weight, but it's not specified or anything. That's just sort of a spitball guess. But if we turn, I've done some testing, and at the back you do have a little embossing of the brand name, which is kind of neat. And then we get to the results. So how does this thing do with fountain pens? Well, you can see I've given it a go with quite a number of fountain pens, all the way from a Waterman Karen. Now most of my fountain pens are fine or extra fine. Here's actually Platinum 3776 with a broad nib there. But I also tested with things like Retro 51, Rollerball, Tornado Rollerball, ballpoint pen there, some Bay State Blue here as well. So I think we got a good coverage. The paper itself is pretty smooth. Like it doesn't feel rough. There's maybe just I don't know. I don't even think there's much, but it's pretty smooth. But as you can see, maybe you can't, but you can see there's actually no feathering at all. No feathering. If I get really, really close, and I mean, the lines are actually pretty clean. If I look really closely, yeah, I can't even see where it gets, fuzzy on the edge sometimes. Not necessarily feathering, but sometimes things get fuzzy on the edge. If we look up here at the Iroshizuku Asagao, let me try to get a light in here at an angle where you can see. I don't know if it's coming, maybe you can kind of see it there. But if you look up here at this Asagao, you can actually see a little bit of sheen from the Iroshizuku Asagao, which is interesting. So we're getting sheen. I'd say one of the downsides is it's not great for shading. So we're not getting a whole lot of shading from these two inks here. But I mean, for 97 cents, I'm going to remind you of that a couple more times. This is a 97-cent stitch bound A5 notebook, which you can, use as an insert because it's just in this sort of format. That's pretty good. Now, you might say, well, what about bleeding? Well, what about bleeding? Nothing. Nothing has come through this page at all so far. Even the rollerball, which comes through a lot of papers for the Retro 51 Tornado rollerball, you can kind of just see the imprint. But even for like show through, you can maybe tell that there was a rollerball on this line. But for show through, for any of the other pens and inks, you can't even tell really that there's anything on the other side. So that's a win. Now, how does it feel to write on? So I do have a couple pens that I haven't tested in here yet. So this is another fine nib. This is my Cross Peerless. I'll go ahead and add a line for this, but I'm telling you, I'm pretty darn impressed with this thing so far. So I'll do a little like ink swatch, I guess is what I was doing. This is the Cross Peerless 125. It's fine nib, and this is Colorverse Dark Energy. I don't really have room for the little thingy-madoos, but I'll do a little sort of test there. You can tell, I mean, this pen is pretty wet, but it's going down good. I'd say for smoothness, like I said, it's smooth to the touch, but in terms of writing, I'd say there's a little texture to it, but not a lot. It kind of, well, let me see. Yeah, just a little bit of texture, but not a lot. This is Pilot, Vanishing Point, fine nib, and the ink is Iroshizuku. Tsuji, and this is, give it a little bit of that. Once again, a pretty wet combo, but I mean, it's doing fine. I mean, it's not the most vivid of colors that come out in this thing, I will say that. So you're not going to get like super brights, or like I said, the shading might be a little bit of a weakness for it because I'm not noticing a ton of shading, but it has a little bit of, I mean, you're seeing the sheen on these bottom two inks. You see a little bit on that cross peerless. I don't know if I can get it to show up well, but I am seeing the gold sheen from this Tsutsuji as well. Maybe you can see a little bit as I move it. But there is that gold sheen that I sometimes get on Tsutsuji. So for showing sheen, it's actually decent. Shading, not so great. Colors are a little flat. But let's see what the other side is there. Yeah, absolutely nothing. Even when I laid it down pretty heavy on that Tsutsuji right here, it's not really coming through. So yeah, I mean, what can I say? For 97 cents at Walmart, 97 cents for a stitch bound A5 insert with a, pretty good cardboard cover. Half of it's perforated pages, so you can rip them out. I mean, and I don't know, there might be, some variants from batch to batch. I don't know if it's just this is a good batch, and maybe if I buy 5 more, I might have a different experience with some of them. Maybe that's for you guys to test, but I've been pleasantly surprised. So if this is how all of them are, I mean, I'm going to go buy a stack of them because it's worth having, a stack of some A5 inserts, even if it's just for scratch paper or just for, taking notes, sort of daily notes, task notes, whatever. But there you have it. I've been really, really impressed with this for 97 cents. You can't even get a candy bar for 97 cents anymore in the US. So for 97 cents at Walmart, the Pen+Gear Personal Notebook, I think is an excellent deal and something that maybe you need to try. And there's a couple things I've come across through the stores and the big box stores and stuff that I've been impressed with. So I'll look to add some more videos kind of like this soonish. They're on the back burner, but this one is one that I think you should check out if you're interested in the form and function and everything. It does great, in my opinion. So have you tried this notebook, or have you tried any big box brands that you've been impressed with? And if so, make sure to leave a comment and let me know down below. Also, consider liking and subscribing if you haven't already. It's quick and easy and absolutely free for you, but it really helps out the channel and it helps you see when I release new videos, so you can stay up to date on cool products like this one. So I believe that's it for this review and this look at this nice little notebook. And until next time, I'll catch you guys later.